Happy holidays from Dr. BeeWell. I know that most of us associate the weather getting chilly with flu and cold season, but here at Dr. BeeWell, we call it bad sugar season. As Americans, we generally eat like shit. During this time of year, with the holiday and other related stresses, those horrible eating practices tend to get kicked into overdrive. We offer a solution in the form of full-spectrum RSO infused raw local honey because we shouldn't be walking around eating nerd rope all day. This holiday season, why not let the bees handle the heavy lifting that your sweet tooth demands, while adding a little giddy up to your mood and smoothing out the rough edges we all tend to find at holiday parties, gatherings, and events. So, from all of us in the Dr. BeeWell family to you and yours, we wish you a beautiful holiday season. And don't forget, Dr. BeeWell honey is the best cannabis stocking stuffer on the market. I think it's fair to say that most people know how vital strength training is for long-term health and fitness, but find it hard knowing where to start. I'm here to say that also included me, Dr. Steve. You want to make sure you're doing exercises correctly, you don't want to get hurt, and you have no idea how to structure a workout program to get the best results. I've been there. In fact, this is where I found myself a few months ago. That's where On Target Fitness comes in. At On Target, every client gets their own custom strength program, tons of individual attention in their unique small group format, and the common sense nutrition and health coaching necessary to make a lasting lifestyle upgrade. As a new member of On Target, I'm not only seeing major changes in my body, but also my overall quality of life. In the past, I've struggled with using proper form. Well, let me tell you, whether it's Coach Joe or Coach Ryan, they've got you covered with technique. Even movement patterns as simple as walking have improved since I've started. When I was working out by myself without a program, I was often lost and lacked the motivation to challenge myself. Not at On Target. The energy and support in the group dynamic is truly game-changing. I have so much fun every time I work out. If you're ready for lasting change, don't hesitate to schedule a complimentary strategy session at www.ontargetfit.com. During this session, you'll learn a lot, make a plan, and only move forward if it's right for your budget, schedule, and goals. I met with Coach Katie, and she was awesome. So please, if you need that giddy up back in your life, get on over to ontargetfit.com and schedule your session today. Welcome back. Today, we have an extra special treat for everybody. It's another Double. We have two guests on today, and these two people are two of my favorite people. I feel like I haven't known them for a long time, but I feel like I've known them forever. They are the founders of Cultivate Consulting. Andrew is the CEO. Christine is the CFO. They are parents. They are friends. They are farmers. They're homesteaders. Christine is an accountant. She's the tax queen. Andrew is leading the business with business management skills. He's a hunter. He does the bees. He does the chickens. He does the goats. They do it together. Two of the most wonderful people that I know going to be on the show today. My guests, Christine and Andrew Gervais.
Ooh,
Was that right?
Yeah.
It's pretty close. It's French. So I'll give it to you. It's Gervais.
Gervais.
Yeah, roll the R.
That's really
Gervais.
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 But, I mean, being around here, we hear Gervais. Most often.
Yeah.
And if it's not that, it's usually butchered. So I'll take it. I like it.
Okay, well, it was Gervais.
That was a great introduction. I was like, who are these people? They sound amazing.
These two people.
Meet them.
I want to meet them. It's funny. It's like a lot of the time, and I can understand why you feel that way because you guys, you do have impact in the community. You have impact in this community, but we don't always feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to take stock when your head's down doing the work.
Yeah, we just go through our day to day.
Yeah, but it's you guys have been doing this for a long time. For a
minute, yeah.
Yeah, for a long time. For now, some would say the earliest in the space.
Yeah, when we started, we had a traditional accounting practice for a number of years before we started focusing on cannabis. So this wasn't our first rodeo with running a business, but we sold our traditional accounting list to entirely focus on cannabis, and we've been doing this since 2019. And definitely not, like, obviously the earliest in the space when you take some of the other states into account, but when we started in Maine in 2019, there was nobody else that was at least telling people that they were working in the space. So we were the first ones to kind of be like, this is all that we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. You know what I like to associate myself with people who are pioneers and who aren't afraid to double down. And
I was terrified.
Well, but
Andrew wasn't.
You were ready to go.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready to take it on full charge. I mean, I worked kind of like you, right? I was working for franchises. I was working for corporate America like forever, and I just tired out. And this seemed like an opportunity. I was like, well, I know my half. I know she knows her half. Like, there's nobody doing it. And if they're doing it very quietly, and they're not doing a good job. Sorry. But there's a lot of room for us to come in and you know, take control of this space, at least for our area to begin. And that's where it started. So,
were you guys cannabis people before?
No. So this is, well, I'll let you tell your version of the story. No, but I think that might have been where some of like my fear came from. That I think I might have smoked pot like twice in high school. So I had no idea what I was doing. And I mean, that was definitely the makings of a beautiful relationship between the two of us, because I didn't even know that there was a difference between indica and sativa, or like what you use them for. So I knew absolutely nothing about the plant. I only knew that I could prepare tax returns. And I wasn't sure that I could do it for cannabis. But Andrew was the one that was kind of like, I know this. I got this.
Mm-hmm.
So are you of the plant? You know, have you been?
I would say I'm of the plant. I'm from northern Maine. I heard your last guest, he was from the county.
The county.
Also from the county.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
I heard him say he was, you know, from Holton. So I am actually another hour and a half north. So...
Yeah. Whoa.
After you get off
Darren, you're going to learn today.
Yeah, I heard it, and I just said, no, like Holton, like, man, I got to drive an hour and a half to get to Holton.
Yeah, that's where we stop, you know? The last stop before we get to mom and dad's.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we stop in Holton, usually for like our last gas before we head up. I'm from Frenchville.
Frenchville.
Yeah, Frenchville, the Ville of French people.
The Ville of French people. We're all the Gervais.
Essentially.
The Gervais.
Literally.
There's our phone book isn't too big, but there's about 8 last names that take up the whole entire phone book.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Is Cloutier one of them? No. Or Cloutier?
Like Cloudier.
Cloutier. Okay, because I see this name, and it's a French main name. It's a French Canadian main name, and it's people like my friend. His last name, best man at my wedding. His last name is Colucci. But it's some people will say Colucci, some people will say Cloutier. We had a girl on the show whose episode will be released soon, Elizabeth Colucci, and she's but they don't even know how to say their last name either.
Yeah,
so
isn't that crazy? Like the years of the melting pot that like we don't even really know how to pronounce it anymore.
Yeah, well,
right.
I mean, where I'm from, it's half the phone book is Pelletier.
Yeah.
We got Sears, Bourgogne, Daigle, like just.
That's about it.
There's more, but...
Bergeron? Is Bergeron a French name?
I mean, it is a French name. It's not common where I'm from.
Okay.
Yeah, so where I'm from is called the Valley. That's what they call it, right? So it's about 6 towns that are all connected along the St. John River, right?
Yeah.
All a bunch of crazy hick farmers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody was growing.
Cool.
Back in the heyday.
Yeah, before
in the
it
black
was,
space.
Yeah,
legacy
right.
market.
The legacy market, yeah.
Crossing it in the border in our trunks. I hope I have like extradition here.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the royal we.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that Andrew. Andrew.
Yeah.
Allegedly that happened. Allegedly
Allegedly
that happened.
Allegedly it happened.
That's awesome.
Probably did. Yeah. So everybody was plant touching. Where I'm from. So it was easily translated into what we wanted to do with the business. Like I knew enough about, like growing it, like the different stages of it and everything like that to be able to have these conversations with our clients about, properly coming up with like their cost of their inventory, right? At any given certain point, like on the last day of the month when you're supposed to count the inventory, like you're going to have stuff that's in seedling, you're going to have stuff that's in veg, you're going to have stuff that's day 15 in flower. You have to be able to accurately, put a cost to that.
Yeah. And now, but was any of this stuff happening back then, back in the
No.
valley?
No.
Right. Okay.
No.
Okay. You're right.
No,
So
no.
I was just thinking like, oh man, this guy, he's from the valley, and they've been doing these practices up there in those six
No,
towns
no.
forever, and then he just brought it down. Okay. So
There's no SOPs for
there wasn't any
inventory
SOPs.
management.
Nobody filed a tax return.
No, you had
Few missing tax returns.
yeah, you had one crazy guy that drove around with a shotgun in his 4-wheeler. That was security.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
Ah, well,
So-
it's it's funny. It's like, it's great that it was able to create an economy for this place in northern Maine, and like obviously this should have been happening always because
Yeah.
look what it did for the state. Look what it's done for the state. It's been a boon.
Amen.
You know, amen. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
been a fucking boon, and like a place that was struggling. Now there's whole towns, there's whole communities that have been risen up through cannabis. It's pretty cool.
100%. Yeah. It's been an honor, really, honestly, to be a part of it. Like, even my CPA career, like, prior to cannabis, I've always worked with small businesses. I grew up in this area. I'm a New England girl at heart, and the majority of what you have here is, like, small family-owned businesses, and that's really the heart and soul of our business, too. That's what puts food on the table for our kids, and so we were just enthusiastic to be able to help other small business owners, especially in a space where like nobody else was like, hey, we know you're going to struggle with this and we're here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you see people coming into the space, right? They're very excited to do it. Their whole heart is in it, right? But like they don't have that business background to be able to run a business, and they're out of business in a year and a half, right? And this person, had the greatest ideas. He had heart for what he was doing. He just needed some help, right? And there wasn't a place for them to reach out to. And like I said before, if there was, people weren't, advertising it. So then we decided to step in the space.
When we first started, I reached out to the State Board of Accountancy and I was like, hey, I want to make sure there's no issues with my license, because like I'm a licensed professional, I'm licensed by the state, and so I have, ethics requirements and all these things that I have to go through. And I was just like, is there any issue with me serving these state legal businesses? And the State Board of Accountancy said, well, we can't say there is, but we can't say there isn't either. And I was like, cool. So
Roll the dice.
We're either going to be super successful or we're going to be going to federal prison. Those are the two options.
Yeah.
So far, no prison.
So far, no prison. That's good.
That's good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is.
It's funny because like that you guys are just obviously starkly different in that regard, right? The boy from the county, and then the lady from who's grown cannabis, has grown cannabis and has been of the plant, and then a lady who had smoked pot twice,
Yeah.
but is very good at being a CPA and getting people to understand that this is that's the biggest thing is like you hit it on the head, Andrew. There's so many people who have these amazing good ideas, and they're capable too. They're capable of executing these ideas, but like that's kind of what I feel like the veil that's put on some people and what holds some of the middle class down a little bit is these these big corporations and the big companies and the people who have done it right. There is challenge to it, and they have made it. And some of it is necessary, some of it may be unnecessary, but it's like getting into that. And I want to articulate this in the right way, but like even me, somebody who wanted to start a business, and what you have to actually get into and what you have to learn, and the amount of stuff that needs to be buttoned up for a business to be successful is it's not small.
It's not small. It's astronomical, actually. And
Yeah.
There's, having been through this, like I've been self-employed since 2016, and there's so many like push-pull moments of I need some professional help with this, but can I afford it yet? Like I need an extra set of hands, but can I afford it yet? And when you're growing a business, completely bootstrapping it on your own, which a lot of people in this industry are, it's very challenging. You can't get a loan. It's very challenging to get investors. And so a lot of this is just like blood, sweat, and tears. And it just makes it that much harder. And you don't know what you don't know. I had the benefit of having a lot of the business acumen just because of my degree. But there was still so many things in running my own business that a lot of it is like throwing spaghetti against the wall and figuring out what sticks, and that didn't stick, and it's like, all right, well, shit, we're not going to spend money on that again. But it's already gone. You already did it, so it's this constant battle of like, did I get that right? Did we not get it right? And sometimes it costs you a couple bucks to figure it out, and that's hard too.
Yeah, and even when like you do kind of figure things out and you're cruising along, you know, like everything changes. You know, the environment changes, laws and regulations change, you know, and
especially
you have
in
to
this
be,
industry.
Yeah, you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be able to acclimate to the changes around you, and you have to be able to react quickly. You know, if you don't, like this industry will just quicksand, just suck you up.
You need to be adaptable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I had somebody say that on a show recently, and that rings so true. Like you need to be adaptable, and you need to be able to go with this plant isn't federally legal yet, and like even thinking about that becoming a thing, that changes everything overnight.
It does.
It like obviously I think we'd put up barriers that wouldn't allow it to change overnight. You know, if it did happen, but it would change things overnight, and you know, having people who wanted to get into this new space, people who had been doing it forever, had been, you know, and that's the kind of the hard thing too. That I bet you guys have helped a lot of people out like this who had been doing it forever. They had been making money already. They had you know, they'd been in the gray area. They'd been in the black market. And they had been successful doing that. And now it's like, oh, well, now I can do what I want. I can actually not have to worry about going to federal prison for this anymore, or go to jail for this anymore. I can do this as a career. But I've never done accounting. I've never done any of this stuff because
not only that, but you got to give like 60% of what you're making to the federal government, which is like not a huge incentive to go legit.
Convincing someone who, like you said, is successful, especially in the black space, you know, of selling. Legacy it's like,
market.
why would I? Yeah, legacy market.
Why
would I do that? You know, because right off the bat, you're knocking off 60%, like she said, to the government.
60. That seems high. I'm not paying that.
I think that's probably a little low. I mean, it depends. It depends. Like we can get into the 280E stuff, but it really it depends on the business.
Really,
but retailers I think are in the hardest. Like if you got somebody that's straight retail, I think they're in the hardest position when it comes to their inability to deduct things and just, you know, the percentage of their gross profit that they're paying taxes on. It's huge.
Yeah, and I want to get into. We're gonna get into all that for sure. We're going to do a deep dive today into like 280E, what that is, why it inhibits cannabis companies from growing, why it might be changing. Now, but with you guys start, you started this company and it takes I want to say like, it's cool that you're not just people who came into the space. You actually had to run your own business. So you have that perspective is really, you know, the same perspective that your clients are having. Yeah. You guys have that same perspective, which I think some of these like bigger firms, the people who work under that, they don't have that because they're just working for a firm. They're getting a paycheck and the operation is completely different opposed to you guys who are running your own business.
Yeah.
It takes a while to do that though. Like, to formulate that and being I'll tell you what, my wife Kayla and I think we have a lot of skills that are for marriage that like make us compatible and make us, you know, good partners, and I think that could translate into business, but it would take some work.
It definitely has taken a lot of work.
Yeah, that's putting it very lightly. Yeah.
It's definitely taken a lot of work. It's when people ask us like, well, how do you do it? Because we work together full time at home and we work from home. So it's not like one of us goes to the office and the other person, we're literally together all of the time. And it has been a monumental undertaking to try to figure out, you know, like my strengths, his strengths, not just from a marriage perspective, but from a business perspective. And you have to have some separation between those two also, and also not, you know, like at the end of the day, like he's my husband, yeah, but he's also my business partner. And so those conversations can look very different depending on what role you're in. And it's sometimes hard to separate them because like you're having a conversation about a client in the kitchen, you know, like while you're slapping together lunch or whatever. And
I think we've done a pretty good job with keeping it professional, though. Like when they say like you got to draw a line, you know, and like this side's business, this side's like personal life, like your marriage and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, we've done a good job with that. Like it will kind of creep in on both sides, and then you just have to learn how to, you know. There's many times where I have to be like, sorry, you know, like sorry for yelling, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
Got a little hot there. Let's sit down and, you know, we'll go through the numbers again and see what we can do, you know, and I'll listen to you this time.
All right, I'll do my part. I'll do what I'm supposed to.
Yeah, but I mean, it does take work every day, every single day.
Yeah, it seems like there's so much power in it, like in what I see in you guys for being successful of it. But it's such a challenge. Like it'd be such a challenge for me to do that, and I mean, I'm constantly doing it with people who are in my life, with Jacob and with people, everybody who's doing Dr. BeeWell, and just everyone in my personal life.
Close to you, yeah.
Everyone close to me for sure. But it's having it be your partner in marriage would be even more challenging, because you want things to get done in your personal life, but you need the business sometimes need to take priority, and like creating those containers. That's what I like. I think that's like a commonplace word that a lot of people use now, and like I try to use it like in my personal life, and in like, hey, this is the container today, and this is what we're going to be talking about, and like that's all this is for, is to get this work done. And not to talk about, what's happening with our kids or what's happening about this. Like we need to get that out of our headspace, and we need to get into this container and only care about getting this work done for this specific client.
100%. We have to have a lot of those conversations, and like Andrew said, like we can have a business disagreement, but then like you can't carry that out into the rest of the house. Like that's not a personal thing. Like when you go to bed for the night, that was while we were at work, we were having a disagreement about how we were going to address X, Y, and Z, and vice versa. Like we're having an argument over like what we're going to do with the kids won't eat their dinner at night. Like you can't bring that into the office, because when you get into the office, like it's work mode. There's stuff that has to get done. So it is definitely a container model for the most part.
I still have like a weekly meeting with her on the books, like on my phone, like once a week. Like, hey, Christine, when are you available? And once a week we sit down and we go over like numbers. We go over advertising strategy. We go over like we're constantly building. Like we're constantly in growth mode. Just everything for the betterment of creating what we're creating here, and we just like devote our time fully to that, right? Like the house might be on fire, our 6 dogs are all barking and freaking out, but like we have to be able to block that out and sit down and get work done,
100%. Do you run the house like the homestead that you guys are doing? Because you're doing a little bit more than, you refer to them as your pets. You got bees, you got chickens, you got turkeys, you got goats, you got ducks. Maybe I'm missing some, and the 6 dogs.
Yeah. 6 dogs is a lot to miss.
It's a lot. It's a lot to miss. I have 2, and it's like 6. Holy shit! Like that's a lot of animals.
That's a great description. Holy shit is a great description.
We joke with people, like even the mailman, like he comes and he knocks on the door. It's a zoo. It's literally a fucking zoo, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we can't sit here and be like, well, we micromanage it and everything is fine.
We run the house the same way we run the business. Yeah. It's a tag team effort. There's a schedule. There's a budget.
Yeah.
Kids work.
Yeah.
Child labor.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly. I don't even know, like, you can't, like, technically it's not even child labor. It's not that, because like if you're,
we don't pay them.
They love it.
You're allowed to do that though. Not that you're allowed to do that, but from like a business standpoint, your kids can work on your farm.
Yeah,
like
Dr. BeeWell does not support child labor abuse in any way, shape, or form. Thank you very much.
No, he does not. But no, we do not at all.
Our kids love it.
We do support, getting your kids, who are your children, or maybe the neighborhood kids too, if they want involved. If you're helping out at their house, and just get involved. Like that's, get away from the iPad a little bit. Get away from that.
Yes, 100%.
Put your hands in the dirt. Like these are life skills that you're going to learn. Don't make them do all your chores. And if you're not doing anything, that would be abusive for sure. And there's definitely a level to it. But if you're doing some work and you're showing them and you're cultivating good habits, I think that's a giddy up.
Amen. Yeah, and that's definitely why we do it. A big reason why we do it is we really want them to learn the value of hard work, and that's the way Andrew and I were raised. Like we weren't given anything, including our business and the success that we have. That was our blood, sweat, and tears, and we don't want our kids to think that those things come without work involved. They love it, honestly. Like my daughter will be like in her pajamas and ready for bed, and if we go out to put the animals like in the barns for the night,
can I come?
She throws on the rubber boots and she wants to come out. Andrew's son loves to garden. You give him a shovel and a pile of dirt, and he's just as happy can be.
Yeah, it's 2 full-time jobs. It really is, right? Like literally 2 full-time jobs. Like our schedule with the farm and the animals starts at 6:00, right? And is all day long, and you got to go outside. You got to make sure that they have water. You got to make sure to feed them. You got to clean their barns. We got to give them immunizations every once in a
Oh,
while.
yeah.
Everything.
Yeah,
right?
it's a
and
lot.
on top of that, we're running a business that literally, like, it takes up all of our time. You know what I mean? Like, even just coming here, like, we had to move stuff and, you know, make sure the animals are good. Like, everybody good, you good, all right, you know? But it's just, like she said, we want our kids to see hard workers, right? Where I'm from, northern Maine, you know, a lot of people look at us as a bunch of, like, crazy hillbilly hicks and stuff like that, but we breed the hardest workers. You will not outwork a northern Mainer, period. I throw that out, throw the gauntlet down, right?
I love it.
There's no such thing as a 50-hour work week, 60-hour work week. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's work. That's all you do. But then you come and you stay in a home, right? And, like, you have, like, perfectly manicured lawns, right? And everything that's out there, all, like, the garages, like, all the goat barns, everything is built by hand, right? So they're not hiring people to come in and build anything for you. The septic, everything's done by
We're getting
yourself.
a couple of the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Everything is done, you know, by hand. That's how I was raised. I was not raised to be like, hey, can you come do that for me? You know,
I think it's a lot of lost skills, though.
figure it out.
Like with our kids and the iPads and stuff, like everything. And it's great for them to learn technology, too. I mean, realistically, our kids' jobs are all going to be technology driven if we're really being honest about that. But I mean, like, my dad wouldn't let me drive my car until I learned how to change the oil and change a tire. So I think there's just, like, these lost skills that we don't, you know, you don't teach as much anymore because it's just like, oh, well, you press this button and it does it for you. And, you know, like, just we're teaching my 9-year-old how to cook dinner a little bit now. And it's like, there's not just going to be a microwave button there's no easy button for this.
Especially for food.
Yeah.
You know, like, and especially for what you guys are doing, like, I agree with you. Our kids, they are going to be, their jobs will be technology driven more so, like, which is good and bad, but, like, you're always going to, you know, because technology can make things really great and it can make things awesome, but
there's a pro and con to everything, right?
in this one, there's a big con, you know, and there's a big con to it. And, like, you know, food, you know, you need that connection to food. You need that connection to food. You need to know how to cook. You need to, and I was blessed that my mom cooked food, you know, growing up. And, like, I saw that and she taught me how to do that. And I was just like, wow, what a skill that I have that I didn't even realize. You know, people will come over to my house and I'll cook them food and I'll do stuff. And it's like, they can't even do that. They're grown adults and they don't have the ability to do that. And it's like, man, that's tough. You know, everybody needs to know how to prepare themselves a meal. Everyone needs to know how to prepare themselves a healthy meal.
Healthy meal, yeah.
Yeah, and how to cook it. And, like, we're losing so many skills, to your point, Christine. Like, you know, it's sad. Maybe it's fine. You know, maybe it's fine.
I don't think it's fine. And I definitely think that, like, that aspect is a lot of what drew us to this industry, too. I mean, not just that there was nobody serving this space, but, you know, obviously with running our homestead, like, Andrew and I are definitely people who believe in a lot more of, like, a holistic approach. And I know you and I have had this conversation too, especially you being a recovering pharmacist. And there's like, you know, there's that world, and I'm very, like, fine with saying that I'm a little anti-Western medicine. Like, I just have a lot of questions. There's so much that was given to us in the world that we can heal ourselves with. We're just not educated on it. You know, we were listening to one of your podcasts. You said it in the podcast too, like, we're not doing enough research in cannabis. We are barely scratching the surface in terms of what this can do medicinally for people. And a lot of that is just how fucked up our society is in terms of how much we glorify insurance companies and pharmaceuticals. Like, there's not as much of a profit in a plant that you can't put a patent on. And that's bullshit. But, I mean, that's, like, holistically, like, that's really, truly who we are as people with our homestead and our kids, like, that connection to food, like you said. There's no energetic connection to me in a Big Mac. I'm not going to say I don't like chicken nuggets, but, like, that's not, you can feel the difference when that's what you're eating versus when we eat a meal of, like, 100% meat and produce that we've harvested from our own property. That is totally a different experience for your body, and, like, I want our children to understand the difference between that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's power right there, because you do know that difference. You can feel it in your body. You know, you said energetically. I think that's beautiful. You can feel it when you have different foods. Okay, you can, when you have a Big Mac, guess what? I feel like fucking shit afterwards, and I feel like shit the next morning. Immediately, exactly, immediately, and I feel like shit even worse the next morning. I'm telling you, man, when I cultivate my own food, and I've recently started eating, more beef. I was a vegetarian for a little while, just by association, with my.
No way.
Yeah, man, my wife, she was a vegetarian. I just started learning how to cook like that, and I was so fed up with what was being presented to me at the supermarket and being presented to me everywhere. I just said, you want to know what? I'm gonna take a break from this for a little while. And so I disassociated myself from meat for a little while, and then I learned, okay, I like to eat meat, and it makes my body feel good to do this sometimes, and not in an abusive way. I think that's the other thing too, is I think that back in the day, the Northern Mainers who are working their fucking ass off on their farm, you think that they're taking out a goat or a chicken every single night to eat? No. Most days during the week, they're having some good food, and then Sunday comes, and that's when they're gonna, Papa's gonna go out and slaughter a chicken, or gonna go take some, a quarter of a goat and gonna bring it in, and maybe that's twice a week. And so I think that if we can eat meat and that's going to help our protein, maybe some people want to do that. And I'm not against that, people who want to be carnivorous. I've just found a way to get a little bit of good source meat from neighbors and from people who are doing it right, who have farms. Yes. And when I eat a meal like that, and then something that I've grown in my own garden, or I've gotten eggs from people who have it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me how good I feel? How much better my body feels? What I can go do at work the next day? What I can do in the gym the next day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, meat gets a bad rap, but it's for a good reason. Because, really, the stuff in the grocery store, that's not good for you. The way that it's produced, and, we could probably spend 2 hours just on that. But our goal, probably about a year and a half ago, we sort of set the goal for our house that we were going to stop buying meat from the grocery store entirely. And we haven't gotten all the way there, but we've gotten most of the way there. And we're lucky because we live in an area where most of the surrounding property is agricultural, too. We don't raise our animals for meat. But
we'd be most of the way there. We refuse to slaughter our chickens.
Yeah.
It's hard to slaughter our chickens.
We found a neighbor that raises his chickens for meat.
Yeah.
So we have 20 chickens in the freezer. And, so we buy our meat from our neighbors, or we hunt. And that's 98% of the meat that we eat.
Yeah, because if you look at it like the beef that you're buying, right, from the grocery store, like she said, the way that meat came to be, right? That's a stressed out animal, right? I've been to slaughterhouses, right, just to observe,
the energy.
And I'm a person who I pick up energy, animals, people, and it was just. It's a horrifying experience, And it's it's emotional too, right? Because then you're looking around, and I asked the question, I was just like they don't have any water dishes, or they don't have any food. They're gonna be here for a week before they're slaughtered. What are you doing, right? And you see the animal, and its eyes are wide, and it's stressed out. I don't even want to get into it. I don't like it, right? Yeah. And then people are like, "Oh, you're a hunter. You shoot a deer," and I'm like, "Yeah, that deer." Had every fucking day of his life was a wonderful day, except for the minute he closed his eyes.
Besides the minute he closed his eyes, and I don't know, we've talked about going hunting together, and it's not something I've engaged in yet, but it's something that I'd like to engage in with somebody who does it like you. Afterwards you go up and you thank that animal. Guess what? You're going in my freezer, and you're gonna.
Emotional. It's so emotional.
I cried like a baby the first time I shot a buck, right?
Yeah.
It just happened to, after I shot it, it fell down right below my stand, right? And I was able to look over, and it peacefully passed, right? But it was just right there. And it, I saw the whole experience of it, and it's just thank you. You gave up your life for my family to eat, right? And I'm not going to waste a part of you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you go to these slaughterhouses, and it's chop, 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 take the tenderloin, take the backstrap, take some of this, everything else where, it's garbage, right? So, that's how we choose to do things. We also enjoy to hunt, We're not sportsman hunters, we don't shoot deer for the size of their racks or anything like that.
It's just our kids love venison.
Yeah, they love venison, so we have
day.
to have venison in the freezer at all times. So,
yeah. How have you found out cool ways to prepare it?
Andrew's really, really good at it. Good at it.
Yeah. Well, being raised up in northern Maine, that's what you eat.
Yeah.
Something that we like is a nice a stir fry. So I take out like 1-inch medallions or something like that. I'll put it in a little bit of olive oil, like a tiny bit of soy sauce, brown sugar, salt and pepper, and let that sit for like a day, pull that out, sear it in a cast iron pan, high heat, a little bit of fat butter, hit both sides for 3.5, 4 minutes until you got like a nice crust. It's still medium rare inside. Slice that up on a bias, throw it on a bed of
It's like the best steak you'll ever eat
basmati
in your
rice, with vegetables from our garden. Hungry right now, huh?
Bro, I'm coming over for dinner soon. I think that's a great practice. I think that's amazing. I think that a lot of people want to do it, and I think that what they need to remember and what they need to just gear up for it, and what you guys can speak to is, even though the work is hard, like that, it's really hard. You guys just talked about, that's how we started this. Before we talked about how awesome it is to be able to hunt and to be able to provide this for your family. It's really hard. It's 2 full-time jobs, like Andrew said. But it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's so worth it. We wouldn't be able to do it, though, if it wasn't for Cultivate, honestly, because we wouldn't both be able to be home full-time if it wasn't for our business, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, come November, which is hunting season, right? Like I was working a 9 to 5, right? And a 9 to 5 in corporate is actually an 8 to 9. You know what I mean? Okay. You get paid salary. They're going to hold on to you. And, like, I couldn't even go hunting. Like, I was, like, I love hunting. Like, I start dreaming about hunting in February. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm ready for the season already. Start scouting out spots, start putting up my stands, start, everything. Like I go hard in the paint, right? And then November comes around, I'm working 9 to 5 or longer, and I can't even get home in time to catch the last half hour of daylight. You know what I mean? So you're I lived in New York for a long time before in the city, and I missed, 6-7 years where I didn't even hunt. Right. And like for somebody who like that's just who I am, I felt soulless, like not connected to the land, not connected to a food source, not connected to just like our primitive ways. Right. This is how we all started as people. Right. We all had that carnal drive, you know what I mean, to put meat on the table or the ground or on fire or whatever it was, and we're still doing that now to provide for our family. A lot of people look at it, they look at it in different lights, like anti-hunting. Hey, man, I respect your walk of life. You do what you want, but you want to feed your kids grocery store chicken or grocery store beef, don't come at me because I shot an animal. You know what I mean? Let me graphically detail how that animal died.
Yes, and you couldn't even do it for us on air because you were going to get so emotional that you were unable to do that.
Yeah.
You were how that animal horrifically graphically died.
Yeah.
And so I agree. On the other side of that, the people who are going and sport hunting and going to to take out animals that do need a little bit of help from us because we have overhunted them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about deer. I'm not talking about deer. But if deer ever did become that thing, I would advocate for deer for us to just let the population grow back up, and then let's do like responsible hunting is the best possible thing ever.
Yes.
But like you said, sport hunting, that doesn't do it for me. That doesn't.
I don't think a lot of people don't really understand the world of like wildlife management, but like Maine in itself has like a stellar wildlife management program, right? Like they're on top of their shit.
Yep.
Right. So when it comes to like the regeneration of deer, like they follow everything. They can tell you like, hey man, like, 20% of the deer that didn't make through the winter was because of Lyme disease. Like the 10% of it was, the introduction to coyotes in that area. Like they can tell you exactly what's going on with the population, and they know exactly. That's why they started, a couple of years ago, started giving out doe tags in a different way, where they're giving out more doe tags because the population of the does has increased, right? So like they know what they're doing.
Yep.
I think a lot of people just don't really understand that there is people watching.
Yeah.
There is people, who have the animal's best interests in mind, but they're also avid hunters, right?
Yeah.
They also provide food for their family. We're not going to go and, hunt an animal into extinction. That's not the goal here.
Right.
But this is something that's readily available. We have a great population, especially in Maine. And I'm confident that if something did start happening to the deer population, that the community would come together and put some type of guidelines together that would allow them to flourish again.
It's
We're
like
not mindless, soulless
I've seen it happen
Bullet
before.
throwers,
Exactly.
you know?
I've seen it happen before, like in Vermont, even a couple of years ago, they started to change some of the rules. And then now the rules have changed again because they come together and people who are of it, just like people who are of the plant, people who are of hunting, they understand it. And but I don't like the 10% or whatever the percentage is, the 5 or 10% that wants to go. And I see, 3 lions, an elephant, and then it's like, fuck off, fuck you,
Sport hunting is weird because it's not a sport. And I'll go to my grave, whoever wants to argue with that. And I'm not talking about target shooting. I'm talking about quote-unquote sport hunting. To be a sport, the other participant has to know they're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little Hunger Games-y.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, we're sport hunting. But the other guy didn't know he was participating in a game.
Yeah.
You just murdered something for no reason is what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times, like, you're walking through the woods and something like that, and you find a carcass of a deer, and they just knocked off the antlers. You know what I mean? It sucks. Wow. Right? Or that happens a lot with moose. You know what I mean? Like, people just want those prize antlers. Yeah. Right? And
this 1,000 pound
that body right there would have fed 2 families
for a year.
That can't afford
at least.
Meal.
At least. Yeah, it's 1,000 pounds of meat.
So, like, you're right. There's 2 different communities, right? There's fucking asshole sport hunters that don't know shit about shit, right? And then there's people who are ethical hunters. We fall under the latter category.
Yeah, somebody who Dr. BeeWell would want to go hunting with, 100%.
Like, we honor the life of that animal.
Well, when I learned, because I wasn't raised in a hunting family, so Andrew taught me how to hunt, and like one of the things that he impressed upon me the most was you don't ever take a shot that you're not sure that you can make. Because I'm not interested in wounding an animal. This isn't just for fun. It's like I'm trying to put meat on the table, but I'm trying to do it in the most humane way possible, right? Like I want that animal to suffer for the shortest period of time. And so it was very adamantly impressed upon me. Like it doesn't matter how big the deer is, it doesn't matter how big the rack is, it doesn't matter how cool you think you are. Like I'm just not even going to attempt a shot that I'm not sure is going to be clean.
If he's not broadside or he's not showing you the bow tie of his neck, you know what I mean? Pass it up. Let it go. You'll see him another day. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to shoot, hindquarters of a deer, mess him up,
Yeah.
If he does make it, that deer will stagger through the woods for days, and then coyotes will catch up to it.
We have Limpy. So during the off season, we feed them in our yard. I mean, you can't hunt them in our yard either way. But so we're very weird, like animal lovers. Like I think we would take a baby deer in if it was homeless and raise it with our goats.
I love it.
We feed them in the winter time. It's out of season, and so we put like corn and feed and stuff out them. We had Limpy last year. There was one doe that was like living behind the house, and she was injured somehow.
It looked like she took an arrow, far back, and she had a limp because of it. But
she came every night to eat.
Tough. Yeah. She was tough, and then I saw her. This hunting season, I told Christine, I saw a deer coming through, and I had my doe tag, right?
We agreed we weren't going to shoot Limpy.
I wasn't going to take her.
She was a badass.
She hobbled right by me. She had her little limp, and I knew that it was the same one.
You didn't take her?
No, I didn't take her. It's
Beautiful.
Gimpy, man. She's going to come over. She's going to be here this winter.
She'll be here this winter, yeah. That's a cool thing, I would venture to guess, too, if you don't have the clean shot, then that animal, you're going to scare that animal. And then you're going to have an outcome where that animal went from living their best life to now knowing, holy shit, people are doing this to me. And let me ask you guys this. Do you think that they're ignorant? Do you think that they're ignorant they know that their friends have gotten shot and they know these people exist, right?
They change their habits right away.
I will say this till the day I die, all right, that you will see a buck on the edge of your lawn every day until opening day. Right?
No joke.
They know what's up. I'll propose this to you. If there was 1 month out of the year where people were shooting at you, would you figure it out?
We'd figure it out.
Right?
Yep, we'd figure it out.
I'm just going to stay home for a few weeks.
The deer still they hear the first shot in the woods on November 1st, and they're like, it's time. Boom. All the bucks go in the swamp. They're like, people are lazy. They're not going to walk through the swamp. You know what I mean? And the deer can move through that magically. Like a swamp there that's it takes me 10 minutes to move 10 feet. They just glide. They just glide through that.
When you say glide, they're swimming.
No, like a swamp, like a thick, boggy.
The muck.
The
Yeah.
muck.
Okay.
Right?
The muck.
With
It's a
trees
great
growing
description.
everywhere, and like you got to climb over and under, and you're stuck. And like to get from here to the end of the wall over there, take me 10 minutes. Right.
Yeah. But they just move through it with their thin little legs, maybe,
just
and they
get
have to.
through.
Whew, cool.
Yeah,
Good for them.
Like you go into the swamp and like you can't even figure out how you yourself got in there or how you're gonna get out.
Yeah, right. The muck is taking you.
There's a highway of like tracks, right? Because they're gonna go to the path less traveled because they know what's up. It's hunting season. People are lazy. We're gonna go in the swamp. So that's why a lot of people are like, hey, you want a big deer? You got to go in the swamp because that's where they're at, right? But yeah, I mean, I will say till the day that I die that they are not ignorant. I don't know what they know. I don't know what kind of inclination they have, but I do not believe that they are ignorant.
Animals are so smart. So I think that was one of the most fascinating things that I learned, like having animals is and they're all different too. Like the chickens are different than the ducks, the goats are different. Like they're all different. They're all so instinctual to what their survival needs are. Every single one of them.
Tell me what you mean by that with your animals.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like funny little things that they like. The ducks need to be near water, and like even in the wintertime, like they will go seek out water, and even if it's frozen, it's very strange. And the chickens will like if there's a hawk flying overhead, like they instinctually know to hide, like to get under cover. It's so crazy. Even like the dogs, like their behavior will change. I mean, we told you like we breed our dogs, and so the dogs will know when one of our females is about to be in heat before it ever even happens. Like they're so instinctual in terms of like understanding their bodies and like their environment around them, and like when something changes,
and their communication too. You know what I mean? Like our goats, for example, if they feel that they're being threatened or in danger, the alpha goat, you know what I mean, will stomp the ground. He just stomps with his hoof.
like his warning signal,
like that, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, what's up? What'd you say?" All right, and then everybody goes up into the barn, right? And he'll stand right in the doorway of the barn and keep watch. Right?
Yeah.
So his responsibility is to keep his eye out for predator, right? And to alert them when something does come, and he takes it very seriously.
The roosters
right?
are
Our
the
roosters
same
are
way.
the same way. You think they're pecking and they're scratching and stuff like that, but their eyes are always up, right? And a hawk comes in, right? And he'll let out a little crow or whatever.
Cock-a-doodle-doo!
Yeah.
Legit.
And then everybody's like, "Whoa, what's up?" And everybody scrams. They go
And
to
so
the tree
people
line.
come over and they're like, I thought they only did that in the morning. I'm like, no,
No,
that's
they
the
do it all
cartoons.
day.
They do that all day.
Yeah.
All day. You can hear them like in the coop at night sometimes.
We've
Like
had a couple of roosters that were, to put it mildly, they were very protective of their flock.
yeah.
Anybody that would come and go near a hen, the roosters would go at you. I was the only one they did it. Like for whatever reason, I would
Yeah,
walk
they
around
recognized
and they'd
Andrew
walk
as
with
They
me.
knew you.
alpha.
Yeah, they knew you were the guy helping them out.
Anybody else would come and they'd come jump up and hit them with their spurs, like whatever. Like these are my birds, back up.
Yeah.
So that instinct is just in them.
Even the chickens too. We had an accidental hatching on the farm this year.
Yeah, we did.
So our chickens were laying their eggs in the goat barn, and we didn't know. They were kind of like underneath where we couldn't see. So by the time we found them, one of the hens had been.
Well, we lost a hen. We thought.
We thought we
Right.
had lost her, yeah, and then we found her in the goat barn. So by the time we figured it out, she had been sitting on them for a couple of weeks. So we just kind of let her keep sitting on them. It's called being broody. So like they get into this mood where like they won't get up off their clutch of eggs. You have to force them to go eat and drink. And it's very like mama bear, like you can't make me leave my babies. And so we let her keep a couple just to see what would happen. And we hatched 2 baby chickens. Like I went out one morning to go feed the goats, and I did my typical like pull her out, like, all right, mama, like you got to go have a drink, have something to eat, and then you can go back in. And when I pulled her out, I could hear peeping, and one of the chicks just like popped right off of her chest. So like she could tell when the eggs were going to hatch, and she got like more protective of like being on the clutch right before they were about to hatch.
And they
the
weren't
animals
even
are
her
amazing.
eggs, right? Those were
Yeah,
eggs
from another mom.
from another mom.
Now, just let me understand this though, because people with who are doing eggs for chicken, I mean, eggs for eggs,
Yeah.
for chicken eggs. I thought that those eggs were not going to become hatchlings.
So anytime,
But you have roosters.
Anytime you have a
rooster.
rooster, you have fertilized eggs. So we would be able to hatch any of our eggs if we wanted to, but they take like 3 weeks to incubate, and chicken eggs in particular are super, super sensitive. So if they're not like immediately in and consistently in heat, they won't hatch. So
Okay, but there's no difference in the eggs.
there's no difference.
Okay, and
One's
so
fertilized, one's not.
yeah, and so it's cool that you guys let her do that. You
Yeah.
let her go towards her instincts and let her be the mom, and you guys got a couple more chickens out of it, and
They're
or-
so cute.
Yeah.
yeah, like it's
They're like a cross between two of the breeds.
Yeah, they're half breeds. Yeah.
They're very beautiful birds. Yeah.
that's really cool that you guys have had this experience, and that you're. It's really cool that you've created this experience, is what I should
Having
say.
the farm animals be born, like I can't wait. We'll breed our female goat next fall, but like having baby farm animals be born on the farm, and like our puppies too, when we had our litters of puppies, like it's amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
There's nothing like that. Well, I mean, there is when you have your own kid, but
Yeah, the human kids too.
it's just like it's as close to God as you can get. Is when you see the beginning of life, right? And immediately everything wants to end your life, right? Like everything. The environment wants to end your life. It's too cold. There's other animals that are like, well, that's a wonderful snack, so it's like
You're very in tune with the circle of life. Yeah.
You have to protect them, but you'd be surprised even if you stand back and just let it go that like the animals do a great job of protecting their young. Like us right away, we want to get in like, oh, we're going to take the birds, bring them in. You don't have to.
Yeah, they're good.
To Christine's point, the instinct, like we the three of us, the four of us, we're animals, and we are so like we're getting away from some of this instinct,
Yes.
which I think is a problem, because it is when it's within us, and a lot of this, it's why we follow good leaders, and why we, that it's all these things that we do
Yes.
are because of our nervous systems, and because we've been doing this for so long. It's a part of us, and it's really for safety.
Yeah.
It's for to live longer. And
Which begs the question, like, why have we not legalized cannabis? Like, when you understand, like, your body was literally built to receive this medicine for a whole host of different reasons, and yet we still stigmatize it the way that we do.
it's fucked up. It's fucked up from
Best way to describe it.
Yeah,
Well,
because
I was listening to you, right? On your, we listened to a few of your podcasts, and like even when you started your business, and I brought this up a while ago, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, I infuse honey with cannabis. I was like, with what? You're like, cannabis. Like it's like it was difficult, right? At first because of the stigma,
Yeah.
right. And like, especially the home that I was raised in, you know what I mean? My
especially
dad-
coming from being a pharmacist.
Yeah, well, my
telling
dad
you,
is a pastor
Yeah.
of our church.
Okay,
you know what I
yeah.
mean, growing up, and
my grandfather's a Presbyterian minister.
there you go.
Yeah,
So he has
yeah.
some questions.
You know?
Right, yeah.
So, but my parents were great with it, by the way, because
My mom thought that we were working for a Mexican drug cartel.
Yeah, my
No
parents understood right away that we would not be working in a field that would be deemed illegal or anything like that. Well, I mean, she knew that I wouldn't because I was with Christine. So
I'm a rule follower.
if I was by myself, she probably wouldn't.
I'm a rule follower.
But I mean,
Well,
they
we
had
need those. You need
questions.
the yin and the yang.
Yes.
My partner's a rule follower too, and thank God.
But I mean, as
need
our
one.
business grew, you know how parents are. My mom's so proud; she wants to go out and tell all her friends there that she sees at the grocery store. Like, oh, my boy and my daughter-in-law, they're doing so great in their business. They don't touch cannabis though. They don't sell cannabis. No, they don't grow it. They don't nothing. Like they're just the accountants. That's how it started.
Sure, yeah.
yeah.
Right, and I mean now, like they understand completely what we do, and like they support us 100%. It's just like there's some people that just won't cross that boundary, like won't cross that line of like trying to understand, what cannabis is. It's all the stigma of like, the 70s, man, like the pot smokers and the dude that's selling dope out of his trunk, and
Yeah, people are
it's
lazy,
just like,
can't get anything
scummy.
done,
It's like
scummy.
a scummy overview of what like this plant that's literally saving lives right now, and it's like just let it. You know how many more lives it would save? How many like autistic children? Like how many just cancer
even
patients.
little stuff like I've
people
had
depressed.
Yeah.
Like the
Addicts.
Addicts, that's the big one for me.
High five on that.
Yeah,
man.
that's the big one for me right there. You
Me
know,
too.
you can
We
get,
had
get
that
some people off
conversation.
opiates and have them smoke a little bit of weed. You
Right?
kidding me? Yeah, giddy up.
I mean, you're speaking my language right there, man.
It's like people are just get them, man, because it's people are dying still. Still it's getting worse actually.
it's bananas, and like how quickly you can get a prescription for something that like is literally going to kill you, but we can't have like we've had this conversation too. If we did have another baby, like what would that look like? My daughter was born via C-section. It's very likely I'd have to have another one. And like, I'm not going to bring painkillers into our house, but try talking to the doctors and the nurses at the hospital about how I'm going to medicate with cannabis to manage my pain, which is healthier for me and healthier for our newborn child that I'm going to breastfeed versus an opiate in my bloodstream. They'll call like Child and Family Services on you. That's bananas. That's bananas that we can't have these conversations with our medical professionals.
Yeah, I think we're starting to be able to have them. I do agree in certain places it's still a non-starter, but you're going to get a pushback from a lot of them. But some of them are starting to see it now because they can't ignore evidence. And like their whole bit, as a medical professional myself and somebody who's in that world and in that realm, like they're just this. It's not that they're bad people; they're just taught this way,
right?
And their whole schooling is taught because it's funded by a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, are funded by a lot of these drug companies this is the education we want you to learn, and this is the way that we want you to learn it. Yeah. And it's like, okay, and then these very smart people go in and they do see it. They've created the studies that have created, so it is evidence-based. We do see that this stuff works, but they're manipulated, and a lot of the studies are bullshit, and you're not talking about the side effects and the negative outcomes, the cons of the equation. And so by not accounting for those, you don't ever get to actually see that cannabis. Okay, cannabis is such it's such a threatener. It's such a threat to that whole.
Because it's so versatile.
It's so versatile. You can grow it yourself. It doesn't necessarily, you can literally grow it yourself and then create a salve yourself and then be healing your body. Mm-hmm. And it's that simple.
It is.
And
do you know how scary that is to the pharmaceutical world? Imagine.
Yeah.
It's like that's your bread and butter. That's your money, and then there's just like something that's not even introduced. It's been there forever, and like she said, it's versatile. It'll, there's just so many things that you can use it for.
Yeah,
I'd be spending some campaign money if I was a pharmaceutical CEO,
I'd be lobbying against it. Yeah,
fuck that shit. No, bad.
$500 million. They're bad people. Yeah, stoners. Fuck them. It's a crime. I almost think because now we're learning that we're just seeing how many lives cannabis can save. And I'm a big advocate for for psilocybin, for mushrooms.
Yes.
It's like Andrew just raised his hand because this is. Cannabis showed people that we can have an economy around this. We can bring this into people's lives. It's not gonna. We can break down those stigmas.
Yes.
There's even a greater stigma around psychedelics.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we can, and maybe not a greater one, but a different one.
Yep.
And we can start to. You want to talk about healing different disease states? In scratching the surface, I think that cannabis and psilocybin, they can heal disease states that we haven't even begun to think about yet.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Never mind like anxiety and depression, all this stuff that comes from this. I'm talking like diabetes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you can start using psilocybin to change your behavior and your relationship that you have with food and the relationship you have with exercise. So then your diabetes gets better.
Yes.
It's like this stuff is so like ingrained into us in a different way. And we need people like you guys and hopefully like myself to bring this stuff forward, to have conversations like this so people can see, and if you would like to do a VBAC, which is when women who have first had this, and this, I'm saying that.
One. Yeah,
I'm explaining to my male listeners. A VBAC is when a woman who has a C-section at first can then go and have a vaginal birth afterwards.
Yep.
Vaginal birth after cesarean is what the VBAC actually means. And if that's what you like to do, my partner, we also had our baby via C-section. She didn't do drugs at all.
Awesome.
So before she went into it, and it was good, and she was good. She was just a soldier, just like taking. I would have been bring them on. Bring the drugs on. This is they do serve some purpose. and I'll get into that. But she didn't do any drugs, and and afterwards she was strong enough to not do that, and she doesn't engage in cannabis, but she was not. She was told to
right.
She was offered.
Of course.
She was offered, other treatments. Yeah. She refused them, but she was offered other treatments and said, no, I think I'm good here. And I hope that women who are, who do want to have a natural birth and want to, without in the absence of drugs, they do have the ability to do that. And you can do whatever you want because you're a super person and you can, so if
But a lot of people don't have that support, right? Like your partner has your support who's, I can tell that you're just going to be like, I'm going to back up whatever you think is right for you. And not everybody has that support. And, not just with that, but like all of these other things too. And like, I don't want to tell your story for you, but I definitely don't think that you were in a position of support and being given other options other than the pharmaceutical world. And so the fact that we don't even offer that to people is a big, big problem.
Yeah, it's like it's not only that we don't offer it to them. The system is set up to offer them. It's incentivized.
Yes.
To offer them stuff that they may not need.
Right. When you got to pay for your cannabis out of pocket. Insurance isn't going to cover that for you.
Right. Yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. It's what led me to where I am today. 100% was a doctor telling me that this was gonna, this is good. Yeah. This is what you should be taking. This is good for you right now.
How old were you?
I was 21.
21?
Yeah.
I think, the first time that I ever took an opiate, I was 9 years old. Right, and that's what the doctors gave my mother the prescription. And my mother, I'm not blaming her at all. I mean, she was very responsible with it. It was like, take half a pill every 4 hours, right? And there it is, my pill's in half. And I remember the first time when I was 9 years old, she gave me the pill. I went to church, and I sat in church with the sweats. And I was like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever felt in my life. How could I feel more? Right, so I get to the point where I'm 9, 10 years old, and I'm like trying to trick my mom and be like, "No, you gave it to me at 1." She'd be like, "No, at 12." Like 1 o'clock, like just to get it an hour earlier.
Yeah.
Right, and that snowballed into the worst addiction of my life. Right, like I was a full blown addict. Like I'm lucky to be here. Right, lucky to be here, just by the grace of God. Yeah, man, I can take the 2 hours.
We're gonna have you back.
Talk about darkness, man.
Would you not that I would want to separate you from your wife, but
it's
if you guys would like,
story.
I'd love to tell that story and it's full. If you'd like to, not today, obviously, or tell whatever you feel like you want to tell. If you want to sit here for 2 hours with her, we can do it today. But I would love to have you.
I don't think I'm emotionally prepared today.
Okay.
It's like, listen, man, like, I can, luckily I can joke about it now, right? And I call it the dark days. But, like, just the darkness that ensued, the humility that I went through, it's agonizing. And, like, I see people still there, and, like, I feel it as if it's my own. Like I do. Like I see people, holding signs on the streets, and like I can see the signs. I can see, opiate use. I can see it, man. And I just want to reach out to that person and be like, "Yo, there's hope, man, and it's not gonna be in the bottom of another bottle." I was to the point, man, not to get graphic, but I was doing 25, 30 Oxy 30s a day, and at the end of the day, I was doing a fat line of ketamine just to come down, and I did that day after day. I was high functioning, so I ran restaurants, $13 million a year restaurants, and I ran them with ease. For some reason, I was just able to do the both, but then it just kind of all came to a screeching halt, man, where I couldn't juggle it anymore. The addiction won. I was nearly homeless. I didn't have a place to go. I lost my son, It was just dragging ass on the bottom of the world, and I had to make a decision, and my decision was the right decision, I quit cold turkey at first, went through the withdrawals, you know how that is.
I do. And
Can't tell you how many people came to see me. They were like, yo, man, I can't see you like this. Just take this. Just take this. Feel better in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I just couldn't do it. So, I rocked through that. And, I found my own way to manage it for the rest of my life, It's pretty controversial, but like I use Suboxone and, it saved my life.
Yeah.
You kind of dive into like, oh, you just replaced it for something else. Like, listen,
Fuck
man,
no.
if I replaced it with something else, I've extended my life by a long shot.
Fuck no,
that's
man.
how I manage it,
But imagine if somebody had just offered you a non-addictive alternative like the first time.
And don't, hey, that's how you're managing at current. That's and that doesn't mean that we need to it needs to be forever. It needs to be for now. Well, because that's the thing, man, is like you were and this is just me putting conjecturing on you, and so just take it as it is. You were a 9-year-old. Yeah. You had no your nervous system and everything, it was completely hijacked. And like I said, not your mother was doing what she was told. Hey, my mom was doing what she was told too. She thought she was helping me. These drugs made her feel better. She said, "Hey, this guy's in some pain. I want to help him feel better too." And so, I can relate with it. Not to the same extent. I don't think I was getting true opiates. I think I was getting like Furacet, which is a headache medicine, and it's has some opiates in there. But I just think that that's a for now thing, and it's I think Suboxone and buprenorphine is an amazing drug. I think that it's a bad drug when people are using it to just get to their next heroin fix.
Still get high.
Sure.
Right.
To still get high, exactly. But if it's something that you're
Saved a lot of lives.
benignly taking in the morning that doesn't affect you, because the way that Suboxone works, everybody, is it's a partial agonist, so it's not getting you high, it's not giving you feeling, especially from somebody who is has the ability to do 25 to 30 OC30s in a day. It's not making you feel anything. It's literally, once you're regulated on it, it's just so you can't go get high.
Yeah.
It's a nice
blockers.
It's an agonist, so it's going to be, it's an amazing drug when it's used correctly. I support it 100%. And like you said, man, it's extended it's extended your life. It's extended a lot of lives.
There's still the stigma, right? Like I've shared this with my wife, like often, right? I still to this day go and pick up my prescription and like wait in line as like a successful business owner, a family man, like I'm not peddling, I'm not, and I still get those looks from the pharmacist. I get treated like a drug addict.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like they'll literally like, oh, hey, Mr. Gervais, yeah, what do you hear? Oh. Yeah. Buprenorphine. Okay. Like,
yeah. Oh,
you're one of those.
One of those.
Like what? One of those people that saved by grace here?
Yeah, right.
Like you go home and you do your little quirky shit, man. I'm not saying nothing. Like I've decided to take control of my life, and this is what works for now.
Yes.
So.
The stigma still exists, and you want to know what I said to those people? Hey guys, I love you. I love you. Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Give me a hug.
Yeah, they need it.
But then, like Christine said, like if there would have been another option, then, if cannabis would have been an option, who knows where I would be? My life would probably be completely different. Who knows? So like I really wouldn't change anything at all up to this point. But like
this generated a lot of drive for you.
It did.
Like in our business,
it did.
Though.
Prove people wrong. To prove myself wrong at first, and then it's just like that. I constantly have that drive. Like how an addict chases a dragon. My dragon is paychecks. Like my dragon is building our business.
Well, I'm supporting those business owners too. Like we as two individual people, like I can't single-handedly take down the pharmaceutical companies from like continuing to prescribe opiates. Like we can't go back and Andrew is right. I really believe him when he says I wouldn't change anything, because like we've gotten to this point, but just like, and it seems silly, but it's not. But like the accounting business was how we supported other businesses who were supporting people to have other options. Like if I can't help support these small business owners from running a successful cannabis business, then there's nobody there to give the next person a way out. And that was like he's such a huge inspiration for me. again, like, it sort of seems silly sometimes, like, okay, well, tax returns was my calling, but, like, these businesses wouldn't survive without somebody helping them run their business, helping them operationally make those business decisions. And one of their clients may not survive if they weren't there to provide alternative medicine to them. So it's just kind of like that little cog in the whole wheel.
Yeah, I might not even call it little. I might call it a big cog, because the amount of people that you have affected by doing that is substantial. Because cannabis is like, this was the biggest thing for me coming out of it. I when I was getting healthy and becoming recovering, I was told that there was one way to do it, and it was to completely stop taking every single substance possible, and that was the only way. And it's like, okay, this person has been dumping substances into their body for God knows how long, and now we're just going to completely, good for you, man, stopping cold turkey and doing it. Like, there's ways to, there's different schools of thought and ways to do this. And, the cannabis being an option for people, and it not calling it substitution. Not telling them they're substituting another drug for another drug.
Man, it's plant medicine.
Right. Now, I'm over here healing. I was over here healing, and I had a tough time with this at first, because I was like, I couldn't even talk about it. That it was now it's part of my business. I believe in it so much that I've made it a part of my life, and I've made it my business, and I've made my livelihood about it. I've attached my livelihood to it. Like, that's how much it positively affected my life. Like, I didn't grow up as a cannabis guy. I was around it enough where I thought, like, oh, I drank, the stoners smoke,
right,
and then I got into college a little bit, and I smoked a little bit more, and I realized, like, this is a cool plant. It makes me, like, creative and makes me think differently, and that's pretty cool. And then I got into my shit. I got sick. And it was like, okay, you can't do anything ever. Okay, you have to stop doing everything ever. I was like, okay, I'll try to do that. But
good luck, sir.
Good luck. And so, like, that was just a lot of sickness, a lot more sickness, a lot of bullshit, a lot of relapse, a lot of, not getting healthy. And then it's like, okay, I do finally, white knuckle it for a while and get healthy. And then you get into I start to introduce cannabis into my life, like, not telling anyone about it, because I know that I'm going to be judged about it. And it had such a profound impact on healing and my recovery that I did this. I started a show. I talk about it openly with people, because it's so impactful. And the mushrooms are the same thing. The psilocybin is even, I think
also
sometimes even more healed.
The substitution argument doesn't hold up at all logically, because it's always bothered me that they call it, oh, you're substituting. Like, okay, so if I stop eating chocolate cake and start eating broccoli, am I substituting my chocolate cake for broccoli, or am I eating healthy? Like, why is one a substitute and one, oh, now you're just healthy? Like, isn't technically we're all just substituting something for something else eventually?
We are.
Like,
I say this all
it's just
the
one
time.
big substitute.
People will find something no matter what. It's just it's the difference between what's socially acceptable and what's not. So there's people that are addicted to shopping and spending money, but, like, it's socially acceptable that you're addicted to that. I'm 100% addicted to coffee, but it's socially acceptable that I'm addicted to that. And so it really, at the end of the day, it's just, like, how in the closet do you need to be with the thing that gets you through the day, and, like, what's considered okay by society and what's not. And really, that's one of the biggest barriers still with cannabis, is that social acceptance, because you cannot argue at the end of the day the medicinal opportunities that it provides for people, and especially in the versatility. And I like to sort of fancy myself like an amateur herbalist. Like, I love plant medicine, all kinds of plant medicine. And, like, Andrew jokes, because if anybody in my house, like, even sneezes, I've got, 17 different, like, homemade tinctures that
The elderberry,
yes.
It's crazy. I don't know what I drank the other day.
The lemon
worked,
ginger
but,
honey.
Oh my god.
Lemon ginger honey.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah, juiced lemon, ginger, and honey. It's strong.
It was a shot of, like, absolute, like, lemon, man.
Oh yeah.
But in the ginger too, like,
Yeah, it's gonna make you feel something.
Yeah, that'll kick out anything that's trying to invade.
Exactly,
My
right.
grandmother used to have this old Canadian cough syrup called Buckley's, and I'm pretty sure it's an accelerant. Right, like, you can start a fire with it, and she used to be like, just take some Buckley's for everything, right? her Buckley's is
lemon ginger honey shots.
Yeah, anything
less honey,
natural.
more lemon ginger.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I'm of that, 100%. Like,
But cannabis is just in that mix, right?
Yes.
Like, it's the same as like, okay, the lavender and the yarrow root, like it's the same thing. It's just another plant medicine, and it's just learning which one do you need for what, in what dose, and when. That's it.
Yeah, true pharmacy. If you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool, and like I think that we need to study it more.
Yes.
I think we need to study it like 1,000 times more.
Yep.
Like it's, I say it. I know you mentioned earlier. We're scratching the surface.
Yes.
Like if people could understand just what the plant could do topically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It would be indicated for like psoriasis. It would be for any type of allergic reaction that someone's having. From a rash standpoint,
Yep.
It would be so much more prevalent. You would see it on so many more shelves, but that's the challenge, and like that's where you guys kind of like you guys are in that world, which is really cool. That you are the people who have that. What we've talked about this entire show, but then like if federal legalization did happen, or if it would completely change everything.
It would change everything.
And I don't know, like, if it would necessarily be for a good thing. I don't know if it necessarily would be good right away. Because we talk about it like, oh, let's destigmatize the plant and let's make it federally legal and let's. I think that if that happened, that we might get even a little bit more lost in it. If we don't if we don't take this time. But I'm curious about what you guys, how you guys feel about it.
Well, I guess I worry about that a lot with the rescheduling conversation. And that's a long, complicated, I think more complicated than a lot of people realize that it is.
So currently cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug. And so like, according to the schedule, the Controlled Substance Act, anything that's a Schedule 1 drug means that it has zero medicinal use. It means it cannot be used medicinally. Cannabis is a part of that. Something like, cocaine is a Schedule 2 drug, because it does have medicinal use. You can use it for, in your eyes for, a ophthalmic surgery. So, yeah, right. And this.
It's not silly.
Isn't that silly?
It's not silly.
Yeah.
Cannabis is in with heroin.
Yeah, exactly. Cannabis is in with heroin. And so it's wrong. It's wrong. And so the way that people kind of, are trying to get around this is by rescheduling it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. Like, currently Schedule 3, you're looking at like benzodiazepines, so like Xanax, lorazepam, Ativan. Those are going to be your Schedule 3 guys right now. So that's what they're saying cannabis is on par with. I guess maybe it's psychoactive, so maybe you do have to keep it there. I think fucking get it off the schedule entirely.
I think so too, but I mean,
got to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere, and like but it does raise just a whole bunch of other questions, and we talked about this earlier. Like one of the great things, at least from our perspective and the business running perspective, is that a move from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 gets rid of 280E. So now all this tax bullshit, which I'll be the first person to say like is completely unconstitutional in my opinion, to allow these state legal businesses, but they just have to pay like an insane amount of taxes. That doesn't make any sense. But moving it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, like there's just another list of questions. So now, do I need a prescription from my doctor? Is my doctor even educated to write that prescription? And then what do you do with the adult use market? So is that still federally illegal? It's like all these other questions. And now, is the FDA regulating the medicinal use? So, because I really want to know the answer to that one. Like, I don't want the FDA anywhere near this personally.
Yeah, get as far away. Yeah, if FDA comes in and tries to regulate,
we're screwed.
Yeah, it's
you
over.
Haven't said giddy up in a minute.
Giddy up.
We need one.
We need a giddy up. Exactly.
Well,
that's the opposite of a giddy up. Would be the FDA coming in. I from like a federal. I don't even know what like federal agency should be the.
None of them. They all
exactly.
suck. They all suck at it.
Right. Exactly.
They all suck at it.
Yes. Exactly.
So just completely deschedule it. Like
yes.
And put it on par like with alcohol if you want. Like so maybe if you're underage, you need a prescription and you need a holistic doctor to be regulated. Like this is just me personal opinion that I I would not take cannabis off the table for one of our children if they had an ailment that I thought could be healed by it, right? And especially if my other option was a pharmaceutical drug that I didn't agree with. But I would want them to be seeing some type of holistic wellness practitioner that understood the plant to tell me, like, what strain do I give them? How often do I give it? Do they take it orally? Is it taught? Like, I would want that level of advice. So, so maybe it's something like that. I don't know. I don't pretend to know the answers from the medical side of things. I can tell you from the business side of things that we're doing an absolute gigantic disservice to a huge industry that employs a lot of people in this country. And the tax dollars that the U.S. government is collecting off of it is making the IRS the single largest money launderer in the country. But we're telling these businesses that they can't have bank accounts at the same time.
Yeah.
Giddy up.
Giddy up. Giddy up to that, for you being an advocate, for us and for the industry, because it's, just to say it again, 280E is the inability for cannabis companies to take deductions on their business expenses.
It's really broad. So it says no deduction or credit will be allowed for any business or enterprise that is trafficking in a federally controlled substance, either a Schedule 1 drug, essentially. So in this case, cannabis falls under it. So it would still apply to heroin if cannabis was rescheduled. But the way that it came about was, it's kind of a funny story, but like there was this very large drug dealer, for all intensive purposes, who, like a lot of great criminals, was taken down by tax evasion laws. So this large drug dealer finds himself in tax court for not filing tax returns on his drug dealing income. And if you don't know, like a lot of people don't, but the way that the tax code works, it says that you have to report all your income, regardless of whether or not it's from legal or illegal sources. Like, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So that's how a lot of white collar criminals get stuck on these tax evasion charges. It's like you're not it was Whitey Bulger, right? Like, he didn't go away to prison for all the murders. It was tax evasion, because you still have to report that income. So this guy finds himself in tax court. Essentially what happens is he has to file all these back taxes to report his income from his illegal sources. He does that, but he also reports all of his expenses for running his illegal operation too. So he's got all these people on payroll. He's got cost of his product. He's got cost of manufacturing. He's, got buildings he's got to pay rent on to do all all of these normal business expenses. Turns out, I might be getting a little bit wrong, but turns out he essentially ends up with a loss, doesn't owe the IRS nearly as much, if any, as much as what they thought they were going to collect from this guy. And there was nothing wrong with it at the time. That he said, if you're going to make me claim all of my income, I'm going to legitimately claim all of my business expenses too. So after that court case, 280E was born, where they said, well, this can't happen. You can't be allowed to take deductions if you're making money off of an illegal business, off of drug trafficking, essentially.
Which is bullshit, because it was all the illegal. That guy was operating illegally and doing that, but a lot of these people had already been operating legally for years.
Yeah.
I get it's not federally legal, but it with a state legal business.
Can't have a bank account. Can't deduct any of your operating expenses. And what's worse, and we see this too, we had a client actually just a couple months ago lost her store manager. Store manager quit to go be a barista at Starbucks because she was trying to get a mortgage, and she couldn't get a mortgage where she was collecting a paycheck from a dispensary.
Imagine.
It's like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this?
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes zero sense. And when something doesn't make sense, that means manipulation is taking place.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yep.
And it's like this.
That's exactly how she said. That's how 280E was born, right? They realized their failure, or they didn't foresee
after
something.
After the fact.
So they're like, let's scramble, and they put together 280E, right? And it's just how about you catch him for his illegal activities?
Exactly, right. Yeah, catch him for the illegal
doing?
Activities and prosecute him for that, if that's what you want to do.
Yep, but they couldn't. So, and that, it's all kind of tied into the federal money laundering laws too. And this was, a lot of the whole war on drugs thing. The federal money laundering laws were kind of born in that era at the same time for the same reason. And I did a paper on this recently. Like, so I'm in the middle of getting my PhD in accounting.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, my
Pretty cool.
And my daughter's always funny. She's like, "So are you going to be able to operate on people?" I'm like, "Nope, definitely not operating."
She just wants to be called Dr. Gervais.
I just want to be called Dr. Gervais. But I wrote a paper on this, like the history of the federal money laundering laws, and a lot of this was kind of born in that same time frame, and it all is tied to the war on drugs, and a lot of that has extended now. And when you start to understand the level of control and insight that the federal government is allowed to have on financial transactions, like that's pretty scary too.
Yeah. Will you share this with me?
Yeah, so it started partly tied to the war on drugs, right? That exactly what we just said. You're having trouble catching these criminals from the drug trafficking perspective.
Yeah.
And so you start to go after the easier piece, which is the money. The audit trail for money is easier to follow because it's harder to hide, like it changed hands somewhere. And so if you can follow that, you can usually follow it all the way up the food chain, and you've got everybody in the mix. And so, but, we've gone kind of like overboard in terms of what the federal government looks for reporting. Like they're talking now about having to report every $600 worth of deposits and more that go into everybody's bank account. That's the direction that they want to trend. And we see this in little tiny increments. So a lot of people aren't aware there's Form 8300, and it's very prevalent in this industry. Form 8300 you have to file anytime you receive $10,000 or more in cash from a single source in 1 year. So if I showed up today
in 1 year.
In one calendar year. So, like if I show up and you're running a dispensary and you're buying my product, my wholesale product from me, like you've hit 10 grand by the end of January if you're paying me in cash, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of people are doing because now you have these fucked up banking laws. So like I have to transact in cash. You're supposed to tell the government any single time you receive $10,000 more in cash from a single source in your business in that year. And then the 1099 rules that they're trying to change too, it used to be that if you were using a payment processor, the payment processor only had to, like a credit card payment processor, only had to send you a 1099 if you processed $20,000 or 200 transactions in a year or more. And that was kind of considered like the line for like, this is a legitimate business. They want that to go down to $600. So now, like, you and I rent an apartment together, and you pay me your half of the rent via Venmo every month, and I pay the landlord. Like, we're over $600 like that. So, like, the level of granular detail that they're trying to get to require you to report the moving of money, to me, it's getting to the point where, like, we've so far surpassed like the level of control that our government should reasonably have.
It's absolutely invasive.
Yeah, I think that's so invasive, and it's going towards what I was saying earlier in helping the destruction of the middle class.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's all in the name of the war on drugs. And it's like, well, your war on drugs hasn't been successful. It hasn't been successful. You haven't lowered the amount of illegal drugs coming into this country. You haven't lowered the number of overdoses. If anything, it's gone up. It's gone up. Yep. And you've got all of this abuse of quote unquote legal drugs from the pharmaceutical companies that the FDA allowed you to approve too. Like, it's just, you haven't been successful with this war on drugs. And we're trying to tell you these other things, cannabis, psilocybin, have medicinal properties that you need. Like, they shouldn't even be in this mix to begin with. The whole system's completely fucked. And then tied to it is your excuse to deep dive into my bank account to know where my money is coming and going from.
Yeah, I think that it's disgusting. It's disgusting, and it's the reason why I say it's the destruction of the middle class is because somebody who has a lot of money, somebody who comes from wealth, somebody who's generationally wealth, they know how to do this already, and they know how they have their accountants and they have their team of people who what you guys are providing for people. They have those relationships, and they're 100 years old, so they already know. Okay, if the government's going to throw another form at us, fuck you, we're better than you. We've been better than you for a long time, and we're going to keep being better than you. Yeah. So now the government's coming after the middle class and saying, "Hey, we're gonna squeeze as much as possible out of you guys, and we're gonna control every aspect of your living."
Absolutely, and they do, because this is someone's livelihood. you know, and so now they have their grip over someone's livelihood. And it's you know, we've thankfully not had any of our businesses just go completely under because that was it. Like, they just went under. But we've had business owners who I think have had to sell in circumstances that they were less than ideal for them. And one of the things that really bothers me about this industry is that everybody looks at it like a gold rush, you know, including other professionals. Like, I can't tell you the number of times that people will even just look at us and just be like, oh, you guys must be making a shit ton of money. And it's like, I'm making enough for our family to live on comfortably, but I purposely don't charge beyond what I need for my livelihood because they're already getting fucked by everybody else. You know, the bank wants a percentage of your deposit. Like, we heard there was at one point we were being told that other CPAs were charging a percentage of revenue, which I think is like so far past the ethical line of what we are and we aren't allowed to do with our clients, because everybody just wants a piece of what they think is this huge pie. Yeah. You know who gets screwed is the business owner who can't survive because there's nothing left after they pay their taxes, and they pay all of these greedy people coming in saying, well, I'm not going to do this for you unless you give me X.
Yeah. It's like you know, another criminal thing, right? Like, it's like, okay, I ran a business before, and the same attorney that wants to do the LLC doc, you know, for me wants to charge me 3 times as much because it's going to take me a little bit more time to.
No, it doesn't.
No,
it doesn't. It's because I put cannabis on it, and now I'm going to charge you more money. That's what it is.
Everybody's doing that. Everybody's squeezing.
Yeah,
it's sad to see. You know, it really, really is. Like, just with the banking. You know, they have certain banks. Some banks do a great job. You know, certain banks, like, we won't name any names. If you want me to tell you after, I'll tell you.
Yes, please.
But like they charge an like exorbitant amount of money, right, just to bank with them, right, and then on top of that, they want 1.5%, 2% of all your deposits, and they want to see your financial statements at the end of each month to prove you're depositing all your money. They'll call you up and be like, "Hey, sir, it shows here that you deposited $250,000 into our bank. According to your financial statement, you made $275. Where's that other 25K?"
Right, I'm not allowed to keep 25 cash on hand, you know?
No, they want their percentage off that 25. And if you don't give that to us in the next 14 days, your bank account's closed. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, cool. Like, I love the relationship that I have with my bank. It just makes me, you know, be able to go to bed at night and
warm
sleep,
and fuzzy.
You know, it's not. It's like, so these people who own these businesses, like, it's not just the IRS, right? It's all these other governing bodies, right, that you really can't do business without, right? Mm-hmm. So what do? You have to do very well just to stay afloat. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're doing marginally well,
too. So like the better you do, like the more you got to give up.
A normal business that's doing marginally well keeps the doors open. If you're doing marginally well in this industry, you're not.
It's not good enough.
It's not good enough. What is it? It's like 40-something%.
We usually, it's kind of like an average. Like, especially like retail might be a little bit higher than that, but we generally tell people that you've got to be clearing at least a 40% margin on your product if you want to break even.
Oh, that's so high.
It's extremely high.
You know, to do that consistently across like all your products, like that's really challenging to do.
That's to break even. That's not even for you to take money at home at the end of the day. Like, you're not even feeding your own family. That's just for you to pay the bills.
Right. It's going to create such a like an environment like where it's hard for people like me to make it. You know, that's what it is. And I bring it on, you know, like bring it on.
That's how we are too, but we want to educate people to understand that, right? You know, so like if I'm able to tell you earlier on, hey, Steve, like you've got to be clearing a 40% margin just to break even. If I am able to give you that little piece at the right time, you might make one business decision that's different than you would have had you not known that. And if you make one decision that's different, that might be the difference between you making it or not making it. You know, and that's really like our approach when we talk to every single one of our clients. It's like, I want to empower you with as much information as I possibly can, because if you make one decision that's different better than you would have if you hadn't had this piece of education, that might mean the difference between you being able to like be successful in this long term, and that might mean the difference between your patients continuing to get care and not.
Mm-hmm. We're not just like the tax people that once a year you go drop off your paperwork to at all. Like if we do your bookkeeping, right, like you're having conversations with us monthly or weekly. We have intimate relationships with our clients, right? Like we're going through their financials with a fine-tooth comb, right? And we're sitting there and we're saying like, hey, so-and-so, like, listen, like your cash on hand, if you want to increase that, like look over here, like your inventory is far too high. You need to lower your inventory, increase your cash on hand, and then you'll see that you have, the flexibility
to do some more things, to
do
grow.
Some more things, like put that toward in your advertising or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like that's part of what we offer. It's not just come see us and we'll do your numbers, and like if you try to call us for the rest of the year, like you won't hear anything from us. Like we have relationships with our clients.
I think we both do. We both take it really personally if our clients aren't doing well from a financial perspective. That feels like that's a failure on our end to me.
Yeah, it's like when I said like I'll say bring it on. To me I'll take it on, but it doesn't make it fair. It doesn't make it fair, and it doesn't make it easy, and it makes it bullshit. It's like, why would you create this? Why would you create this like this? And it's because it's a lot easier for people who have a lot of money to come in and do this, and for them to be successful in it, and for them to control it. It's like if it was if like capitalism in terms of like the true free open market existed.
Yes.
People would be gaining wealth every single day, because there would be a new industry that would happen, and then people would be good at it. Someone would figure it out. Somebody who had skills would come up and create this industry. But like we suppress that so much because people want to hold on to, and wealth would be changing constantly, and that doesn't happen because people hold on to it, and they hold on to it as best they can, and then they only wait. Like with cannabis, they were very calculated, and some of these bigger players were very calculated in how they were going to get into this, and then they use their money to lobby. They use their money to direct where things are going to go, and it's just shitty. It's so shitty.
It is shitty, and like I get that. I think that's one of the things that really concerns me with rescheduling too, is the little guy, right? Which is a lot of the economy around us, and the rescheduling, if the FDA gets involved, if people need a prescription from doctors, if insurance is going to get involved, like I really have to wonder, how does the family-owned business, how does the small provider with like their little client list survive in that? I don't know if they can. And so a lot of that concerns me too. And I think that's one of the better arguments for descheduling, at least from my perspective, in protecting those small business owners, is like it is a free market, right? Like if this isn't federally illegal, if I can get a bank account, if I pay my taxes the same way as everybody else, if I have the ability to just produce and sell my product, like of course, within compliance or whatever, but if I have the ability to just run my business like the guy that sells T-shirts next door, that's different. If you continue to put all of this, like regulation around it that doesn't make any sense, all you're going to do is continue to constrict those small businesses. And when I say small, I mean small businesses is usually defined by less than 100 employees. So I think that's pretty much everybody in the Maine market. Maine, Vermont. That's most of the players.
Yeah, and it's like that's probably what the biggest players are thinking right now. Like, okay, yeah, we got 20 years. We got 20 years here, so like let's just let them do their thing for a little while, but we'll use these levers that we can pull, that once we pull them, we're the ones who are pulling them, so we're going to be prepared. We're going to know what to do. We're going to know how to execute it, and then they're going to be scrambling.
Yes.
Kind of even like what's happening now. Like, is rescheduling going to happen? If it happens, what am I going to do? How will that change my business? Okay, I need to be prepared for that. And it's like if you're the person pulling those levers or knowing when it's going to happen, because you've put in $100 million to lobby for that.
It's not fair, and we really try to have those conversations with our clients as much as possible. and especially from like a compliance and tax perspective and doing things the right way. And it sounds self-serving when I'm like, no, you have to do things the right way, because obviously like that means paying a professional to try to help you do things the right way. But really it's like, I want you to be there when the smoke clears. And I can promise you that one of two things is going to happen if you don't do things the right way. Like you're either going to get bought out, which is probably not going to happen if you're not doing things the right way, because you're not an
pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
too.
You're not an attractive buy if you haven't been doing things the right way, or you're going to get pushed out. So like if you're not foundationally putting these things into play, you're not going to be able to compete when somebody bigger than you pulls that lever. Mm-hmm. You're just not.
Your books need to be tight. Like your paperwork needs to be sound. Like she said, like if you do end up wanting to sell, like you need to be attractive to sell, and like there's
part of that is not owing $1 million to the IRS.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I talk about this a lot, like with with people who I'm working with, and like just trying to get them to see that, like, hey guys, I get that we're not doing this right now. I get that we don't see that it has the most like value second now. But we need to spend the hour to do this paperwork, and we need to always spend the hour to do this paperwork and to file it appropriate and to know exactly where it is and have this living document and have this living file that exists and goes with us, because at some point it is going to matter. And
it is going to matter.
If we want to sell this thing for $100 million, guess what? This is going to matter.
It is going to matter. You're never going to sell for $100 million when you've got back taxes up the wazoo, because nobody else wants to come in and be responsible for that.
Yeah, let me pay you $100 million to come and clean everything up that you've been doing. Yeah, sure.
No.
It's not you're not going to be able to run a successful enough business if your foundation is
not there.
People want turnkey, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
They want turnkey. They want like clean books.
Especially the companies that have $100 million.
Yeah. They're not just going to give that to you.
Guess what, guys? Pepsi and Coke aren't coming in here unless things are, they don't even want to do anything. They want to hire one person to call them the CEO of this new business and then demote you, and then you can just run the business with this new person, teach them how to do it. But everything, they don't want to denote any resources to it. Nope. They want to start bringing in revenue.
Absolutely.
How can we start making your process even more efficient with what we have?
If they can't see those numbers plain as day on paper beforehand, they're not going to make the investment, because it's not clear, right? So if your financials are a mess, if your tax situation is a mess, that's an immediate no. It would be like if you were going to buy Apple stock and it came out that their financials were all completely screwed up. You're like, well, I'm not going to buy Apple stock because I don't really know what the financial condition of Apple is. I don't know what's going to happen to the price of this stock. It's probably going to go down when everybody figures out that their shit is a mess.
If you and I are sitting down, like, right, like potentially I want to buy you out, right? And you come to the meeting and we're sitting down and we have our lawyers and you pull out a shoebox, right? I'm going to get up. Mm-hmm. I have no interest if that's how this has been run.
We'll take the shoebox, though.
We'll take the shoebox.
We'll take the shoebox.
Yeah, Kristen will take the shoebox. We're not going to buy your company, but it seems like you need some help accounting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can't even tell you how many times we've gotten like shoebox early on.
Lots of shoeboxes.
But they'll apologize right off, like, hey, listen, like we really want to start somewhere, and we realize that like we need to start somewhere. So it's a little embarrassing how we did it, but like we've made the decision that today, as of today, we're going to start doing things the right way.
Yep.
Here's our shoebox.
Got you.
That we accept.
Yeah.
I sit in the living room and I have a shoebox out and I have sheets all around me. You know what I mean?
I really do. I hope to hell that our shoebox company is the company that sells for $100 million in 10 years. I do. Like when that shoebox comes in the door, every single one, and like I metaphorically, but like I look at every single shoebox and I'm just like, that was us too. Like, granted, I'm an accountant, so we never had a shoebox, but we did a whole bunch of messy stuff too. Like there's things that we're not good at. And, I hope, I hope that shoebox is the one that sells for $100 million. And I hope that someday I am able to look at our clients and go, I remember when you guys were the shoebox that came in the door. Like I hope that for them. I really do. Mm-hmm. And like even more than like the big players out there that already have a ton of money. It's like I want, Joe and Sally that came in with their shoebox. Like I watched their kid, like they paid for their kids to go to college, and like I want that for them.
When we have a client that like starts with us, right, and they're just like, starting out of their garage, right? And then 5 years later, like we're working with the same people and they're opening up their third location.
Oh, I love that.
There's a sense of pride there where like we had a lot to do with their success, right? And I'll pat my back for that, like we did.
Oh, you better believe it.
And like there's just like, it's besides the fact that we're getting paid by them, like there's that ownership and that sense of pride, right? And that's something that sometimes is worth more than money.
It
right?
is. It really is.
And we look for that with all of our clients. And like, believe it or not, like we're picky with our clients too. You know, like we do have like preliminary discussions and go through stuff. And like a lot of times just not the right fit, you know, because we are looking for people. We're looking for clients who are ready to change, right?
Yeah.
Not, hey, I need somebody right now because somebody's breathing down my neck. But as soon as like the quick fix is done, you know, we're going to go back to our old ways. Like that's not what we're looking for. There's no like longevity there.
We're just as holistic in our practice as we are in every other area of our life. Healing your books from the inside out.
Yeah.
Healing your books from the inside out.
I got to trademark that before.
Yo, girl, trademark that.
First time I hear that one, yeah.
That's good. That's really good. You know, today has been awesome. You know, it's been really, really amazing having you guys on.
Thank you.
You know, I'm gonna say like first, like I think that I would be benefited from, as well as my listeners would be benefited from, like having you guys on like separately.
Yeah.
You know, and I would really like to even like get that scheduled. You know,
Andrew's story is amazing.
Yeah, I got to hear Andrew's story. Me and you got to get through it. You know, we'll laugh, we'll cry. You know, we'll do it the right way.
Believe it or not, I've never actually like even told any parts of that story to anybody except for people who know me very personally, let alone your listeners.
Damn, bro. Well, I love you for sharing it and for, you know, for the parts you shared tonight. And if you do get to a point where you would like to do that, I would love to be able to provide that and to do that with you.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, like, it's amazing that you have the platform, right? Because, like, if you think about it, right, like, there's people out there in all walks of life, successful, not successful, right? And they're just living on the edge. And sometimes it just takes hearing a story from one person who they can relate to, right? And that's life-changing. It really is. You know, like I have a hard time like getting through it, as you can see, because like it really impacts me, you know, to know that there is a large population of people out there that don't have another option right now or don't feel like they have another option.
They don't feel like they have another option, and it's a like that feeling is so true to them. You know, it's so true, and I only know it because I've been there and I've felt that hopelessness.
Yeah.
And
well, hopeless only gets deeper every day you go. You know, it doesn't let go. It
doesn't let go, and like you do, you know, from what I've seen, like you know the stories, what you would call someone hearing a story, and for me, I call that lightning in a bottle. You need to catch lightning in a bottle to really kind of figure this out. You know, there's some type of switch that needs to happen, whether it's yourself supporting yourself or somebody else showing up in your life and giving you some support that you didn't know you had or you didn't know you needed, and you getting that support, that love, even someone just loving you, someone one time saying, hey, you know, I love you, having a good conversation, it can change the direction of everything.
Everything.
And that's what happened with me. Like, you know, it's what happened with me. It seems like what's happened with you, and it's like, you know, makes me so sad to think that the people out there and I it's hard to even think about because I see it and I'm like, I just want to heal everybody. I want everybody to heal, and I want them to be able to get there on their own time. And, you know, and I can just do what I can keep doing it, right? That's all we can keep doing is what we do, what we think is going to be what's best for people.
Yeah.
And like what's best for me is I think I'm sharing this story. I'm creating this platform where people can come and they can talk about this stuff and they can feel open and they can feel comfortable and they can share shit with me and I can share shit with them, and it can be just that alone. The power of conversation is so important, and like if you are ever willing to do that, you know, I would love to do it with you because you are just a real motherfucker, and like I appreciate you and I respect you, and
I appreciate it, man. Same.
Yeah, giddy up.
Giddy up.
Yeah, baby, giddy up. And so
I won't steal it.
Bro, there's no stealing it. It's yours. That's how it goes.
It's not
you can have it.
trademarked?
I have nothing.
Well, we're working on the
Yeah,
trademark.
yeah, you got to trademark that.
Yeah, we're working on the trademark for sure. But it's and what I mean is that the giddy up is the positive force of attraction.
Yes.
It's this what we're having right now. This conversation is giddy up. Our friendship is giddy up. Jacob always spending his time here with me, once a week is a giddy up. Everyone, this community coming together and trying to lift cannabis up, that's a giddy up.
Yes.
And so
that's how we met you. It was like just the cannabis networking.
Yeah, I was in the car and I was like, who's that giddy up guy?
Who the hell is that guy? He's got a different energy.
Well, I mean, listen.
Immediate love though. Immediate like Andrew
I'm
said,
what
like
some people would call like not very personable. Okay? I'm not. Like this is the most you'll get out of me and this is a lot.
Andrew's an introvert and I'm an extrovert.
I'm very much an introvert, right? And I don't like get along with too many people. I really don't. Like I really don't. And I met you and you're so far from my personality and you were all like, giddy up, bro, like just high energy. But for some reason I felt attracted to it. You know what I mean? While normally I'd be like, dude, I need to be the furthest fucking possible from somebody with high energy like that.
I'm high
but for whatever
energy
reason,
too, though.
like
It's positive high energy.
we started talking and like I liked what you were saying and like we seemed like we were very similar. So it's just like it's the same energy just wrapped in a different skin. You know what I mean?
That's it, bro. Exactly. It's just it's the same energy wrapped up in a different way, expressed in a little bit of a different way, and it's like it's so cool that you felt that because I felt that the same way. I was like, fuck, these people are cool, different energy than me, but the same at the same time and like, bringing it. And it's like that I appreciate you for saying that and for, having the self-awareness and just to be able to articulate that. That's a fucking, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Christine, you're amazing too. I think that your knowledge and I would, if I could have, like earlier, it was awesome. I asked you if you could give me this, and it's what I meant was like, hey, offline, could you send me the paper you wrote? Yeah. But then you went into it and just told us all of it, and I'm like, oh my god, this girl is so brilliant. Like, and every time I hear you talk, all the stuff that I've listened to, all the stuff that I read from the tax, your tax review, it's like, damn, this person
is definitely the smart one.
Oh my god, dude. Well, it's I mean it takes two, right? It takes and you're smart in your own way. We're smart, like, we all have intelligence. And so learning what our intelligence is, and then if we can, getting to a partnerships are tough, but if you can figure out how those partnerships and say, hey, I'm good at this, I'm going to do this, you're good at that, you do that, and let's come together and let's grow. And you guys do that to like I don't see anybody doing it better,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, from the personal life and on the home life. Like I'm not quite homesteading yet. I do a lot. I have my bees and I do my thing. And
the bees are the best. We didn't even talk about the bees. But
I know.
Talking about like natural instincts, like they're I love them.
The natural instincts.
Do you ever sit and just watch your bees?
Oh, all the time.
I sit and just watch my bees.
Just sit and watch for them and be with them and just.
I'm allergic to bees. So, like, I'll
Andrew's
do
not
it
allowed
with
to
her.
handle the bees.
I'm allergic. Like,
Yeah, he
Macaulay
doesn't
Culkin, my girl.
That
Done.
bad. Dunzo.
Yeah, he
Got the
doesn't
EpiPens.
handle
So
He
I've been
doesn't handle
told.
the
I've
bees.
not been stung yet. I had, like, the allergy
Yeah.
test when I was little, and they told me, like, if you could just try to avoid ever, being stung by a bee,
So
you'll
naturally,
either
we
die
just
or
got
go into
beehives.
anaphylactic shot. So, like, I'll help her with it, but, like,
From a distance.
I get pretty close.
you get
Suited up.
No.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't get suited up.
I
I'll
don't
wear
really
gloves.
get
She
suited
doesn't
up
get
anymore
suited up.
either.
Me neither. Isn't that great?
They feel
love
your
it.
energy.
Yeah,
man.
they feel it.
And
yeah.
as long as you don't smell like bananas, you're all set.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. But
Oh yeah, no, for sure, man. They don't like the bananas. They like, they come at you with the bananas. I don't know if they don't like
they
it.
release a pheromone when they feel that their hive is being attacked.
That supposedly smells
That
like
smells like bananas. So if you go there smelling like bananas, they all just instinctually go
Is that what it
attack
is?
mode. Yeah.
I know the pheromone. I know that beekeepers have told me about that. Like, oh, don't bring bananas to your hive with you. I'm like, okay, I won't do that. And I assumed that it had to do with the smell and the pheromones, but I didn't know that it was because that they released
That's how
a
they
banana.
communicate
Well,
different pheromones.
of course,
Yeah.
of course, that's how they communicate. 100%. They're letting each other know. Yo, giddy up! There's an intruder here. I just didn't know that. That's why it's making sense now. Don't bring the bananas to the beehive.
Yeah,
No
don't do it.
bananas.
No bananas.
Do it. Especially me.
Have you smelled
If
it?
she really
Have
wanted
you
to,
smelled
like-
it? Have you smelled it?
The beehive?
No, when it this banana smell.
No.
Oh no.
No, okay.
Ours are peaceful.
They're
man.
very, very docile, and I'm kind of like a hands-off beekeeper. Like I like to sit and watch them, but I don't like overdo the maintenance and stuff. Like they're good.
Yeah, like said, they know what they're doing. They're a species who has been doing it for 2 million years.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I don't need to mess with that.
No,
they
you
got
don't.
it under control.
Yeah, they kick the. You ever watch them kick the drones out, the boys?
I haven't, but yeah.
It's happened, but a month ago, you know, all the boys were just like, oh, it was a great winter, you know, it was a great summer, you know, it's all honey, you know, some of us flew and, you know, had some sex with the queen, you know, they died.
Go high up.
They high up, exactly. Yeah, they're at a different flight path.
Queen
it's so cool. Queen knows where to go, dude, exactly. And then they just get ripped physically, like you got like 4 worker bees physically ripping a drone out and throwing it out of the hive, and it's like, oh, okay, that's if we don't get our shit together as human beings, it is feminist for sure.
That's for another show. We don't need to do that.
For sure, it is feminist, but it's like, you know, you got to look at that women have that, but they have that ability in a society, in that certain society, because they are the people who provide birth.
Yeah.
You know, and they can say like, damn, we are controlling this because it's our bodies that are facilitating this, and they just learn that this is what works best for us. I'm hoping that our ladies don't try to.
Yeah,
you know,
right. Like I'm not. Yeah, I don't like the representation here. But.
Oh, okay. Giddy up. I hear it.
I work all year and then.
Exactly right. Well, but you want to know what?
Thank you for an excellent tax season.
Well, I'll hear you though. They don't actually do much work. It's the women who are doing the work. They literally the drones in the hive. They're not doing they're not helping the bees. They're not helping helping the brood. They're not
just there to make babies.
They're just there to make babies and eat honey.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Giddy up. Come on, man. Giddy up. I love it. Oh man, I'm definitely gonna have you guys on separately, and then too, you know, maybe we'll do it again together because like you guys are just great guests, and like I know this takes a lot from the time, and you know we got to plan this, and
this is awesome though. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's cool. Now we go back to work.
Yeah, now you go back to work. That's how it goes. I know. But guys, thank you so much for being here today. If where can the people find you if they wanted to get your business?
Yeah, so you can go to the website is cultivateconsulting.co. So everybody screws that up. It's not .com. So it's cultivateconsulting.co. You can email us. Andrew is drew@cultivateconsulting.co, and I'm Christine at cultivateconsulting.co. And we answer everything within 24 hours. We're very hands-on. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys need any help with your business practices or your accounting, I think you've heard it on the show today. These are the people who you want to do it with. These are real good people.
And we're going to see you in collaboration in January.
Woo, yes. Let's talk about this, yes.
Yeah, so tell us what you're going to be speaking at. So the trade show that you're coming to in January, we'll be there too, is in Augusta. 2 days, the 6th, January 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th, 6th and 7th.
We should probably...
January 6th and 7th.
Yeah. January 6th and 7th,
at the Augusta Civic Center.
Okay.
And you're coming to speak.
Yes.
What are you going to share?
Well, that's the thing is I had to connect with you guys on this. I'm on a certain panel, right?
No, you're by yourself.
Okay. Giddy up.
So
okay,
anything you want.
This is beautiful.
Infused honey.
Okay.
Cannabinoids, edibles, whatever your jam is.
Yeah, maybe I'll do the Controlled Substance Act. Yeah. You know, and talk about that a little bit, and then talk about what we talked about a little bit, and from my knowledge as a pharmacist, and then I'll get into the healthy edibles and the honey. And
do it.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, come.
So just to be clear, this is the MMCM trade show January.
Yep.
6th and 7th.
Yeah,
Maine Medical Cannabis.
The Maine Medical Caregivers of Maine.
Caregivers of Maine, right? Exactly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a trade association, and this is their biggest fundraiser of the year. So they're one of the only nonprofits. Like actual true nonprofits. But
we'll put this up in the show notes. We'll definitely get this episode out before that, and we'll get this up in the show notes too.
Cool thing. We're not supposed to outwardly publicize this a lot, but the really cool thing is that vendors are actually allowed to vend to patients. So if you come with your medical card,
just bring some money.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you don't have your med card, you can get your med card on site. And so people will have a whole host of medical caregivers there
and
to
there's a
meet
vape
and talk to.
Outside, so
cool.
Outside consumption. There'll be food trucks when you get the munchies after.
This is great.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, so guys, come check us out January 6th, 6th, and 7th?
6th and 7th.
January 6th and 7th up in Augusta.
Yep.
The MMCM trade show. It's going to be great. Dr. BeeWell will be there. Cultivate Consulting will be there. Mm-hmm. So come check out, come hang out with us. We'll have some stuff in the show notes about it. And that's great because I love that even more because I was expecting it to be a panel. And now that I get to have
free reign.
Free reign. That's even better. That's even better. I'm so excited. I'm gonna
just tell the giddy up story from beginning to end.
Giddy up from the beginning to the end, 100%. Let me ask you that. Do you guys, as listeners of the show, do you think there would be value in that, in me telling like my own story?
I think there's always value in that.
There's always value in that.
Yeah.
Especially in this industry, like people want to know who they're doing business with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they want to. Mm-hmm. Like if we were accountants that like I wore, a 3-piece suit and a tie, I don't think we'd be doing very well. It's the fact that we can relate.
Yes,
right. That like we work hard.
we're local, and exactly what you said at the beginning of the show. Like we run our own business too. I don't collect a paycheck. So when I tell you that I understand the struggle of what you're dealing with in your business right now as the owner, I understand the struggle of what you're dealing with in your business right now. So, yeah, for sure. I think that anytime you tell your own story, it just establishes another level of trust. You just become that much more of a trusted resource because you're a person.
And that's priceless in this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been telling my story, throughout the whole, throughout the shows. I little bits and pieces here but like I'm talking about like a sit down.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna do it then.
Do it.
So I've had some people telling me to do it and to get into it, and I said, okay, I don't know if there's value in that. I don't know if there's value in that quite yet.
You never see value in your own story, right? So whenever people are like, "Oh, that's so powerful," I'm like, "Dude, it's my life. I have no idea what you're talking about, you crazy person."
Right?
Like this is the life that I've lived. I don't have a choice.
But you said it earlier too. You never ever know who's listening, and if your one thing that you say is just going to like completely alter the trajectory of someone else's life, you just don't know.
You don't know, and that sounds like a true giddy up to me. Because if you are positively if you're positively articulating information out there that can be helpful to people, and it's going to be received. Yes. It's going to be received. You may not know it, you may not hear about it, but it's happening, and so just keep putting that shit out there. Keep putting positive energy out there. Keep getting as many giddy ups as you can give.
Yes.
It's the only way through. It's the only way through to create a better sense of community that we have. And so, the community that listens to this show, I love you guys. I thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you to Cultivate Consulting for coming on the show today, to my friends Christine and Andrew. You guys are like incredible, and we only scratched the surface of like what we could talk about. I cannot wait to have you both back independently and to get in some really, really the minutia of some of the stuff that you're talking about, Christine, and then obviously the great story that you have about perseverance and being the only ways through. I appreciate you guys so much for coming on the show today, and for the audience, if you guys you need us, you know where to find us at Dr. BeeWell. Hit up Cultivate Consulting. cultivateconsulting.co. Or you can get Andrew, just Drew at cultivateconsulting.co or Christine at cultivateconsulting.co. If you need us, we're here. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. Giddy up.
Giddy up.